The first big trade deadline move has been made. How does it affect the market and specifically the Cardinals' needs moving forward? Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com joins me today to talk about all of this and more on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor born and raised in the Lou and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio. You can follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I do want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also available on YouTube. Be sure to stop by, like, subscribe, and comment, and interact with us, and hit that notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode being brought to you by SupplyHouse. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. So joining me today is our guy, Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com. And if you haven't made your way over to the website, make sure you do that. A lot of great articles, a lot of great pieces written by Thomas and the wonderful staff over there at RedbirdRants.com. About everything Cardinals, the good and the bad. A lot of trade deadline stuff, which is what we're going to focus on here today. Thomas, how are you, buddy? Things good in your world?
Absolutely. Doing quite well. How are you?
All right, good. The MLB trade deadline is now 4 days away, and business is starting to pick up. We had a deal late on Thursday night. The first big name got moved. Former Cardinal Randy Arozarena got shipped from Tampa Bay to the Seattle Mariners in exchange for 3 players. They got 2 A-ball guys. One's an outfielder, one's a pitcher, ranked number 12 and number 22 at MLB Pipeline. And then there's a player to be named later that's going to be thrown in at some point. We don't know who that's going to be yet. The other deal that was made was the Diamondbacks were able to get A.J. Puck from the Miami Marlins. But the Arozarena deal is the one that got people pretty excited. Although the Puck trade, I was like, wow, that's a really good pickup for the Diamondbacks. He's been very good since he's been a reliever. But Arozarena is the one that is the headliner. You know, he's been phenomenal since going to Tampa Bay. Cardinals fans know this. He's having a down year for his standards, Thomas. Hitting just .211, but he's got 15 home runs. He's got 37 RBIs, 16 stolen bases. The OPS plus is at 105, so just a tick above average, and the WAR at 0.8. But since June 1st, he's been better. He's been more like the guy that we've been used to seeing since he got to Tampa Bay. He's been hitting .284 with 7 home runs, 18 RBIs, 9 stolen bases, the OPS up to 903. He's 29 years old. Still has 2 more years of control left, has had a history of postseason success. Obviously, he's put on a show at the World Baseball Classic. We all saw that. Home Run Derby. He's got swag. He likes the big stage. My question for you, Thomas, are you surprised at what the Mariners gave up? Like, to me, it feels like I was a little underwhelmed. I was like, really? That's all it took? A couple of A-ball guys to get Randy Arozarena. What were your thoughts on this deal when you heard about it?
I think it says a lot about the Rays. I mean, they're a team that we can never quite figure out what's going on down there. They get a couple of A-ball guys with relatively high ceilings, and they could turn them into stars pretty easily. Randy was going to be really expensive the next 2 years, and we know they don't like that. He showed some cracks that he seemed to have figured out. I think it's a win for both teams. Honestly, the Rays are going to have to wait a little bit longer. It's a little bit weird that they gave their best player to a team that is just ahead of them in the standings, but it's the Rays, so we never quite know what's going on. But it'll probably end up well for them.
Yeah, Seattle clearly desperate for some offense. They've been rumored to be asking for a guy in the division in Jonathan India from the Cincinnati Reds. They've been sniffing around him as well, but they've got all this pitching. And the offense has been the problem. Julio Rodriguez is down right now on the IL. J.P. Crawford also on the IL. So it's been a rough go in Seattle. So they're going to be one of those guys that's, pretty active probably here at the deadline because they've been sinking in the standings. Like they had a nice lead for a while there, and Houston's caught them and passed them, and they're going in the wrong direction. So somebody to keep an eye on, that's for sure. As far as the Cardinals' needs, I mean, this is kind of good news for the Cardinals because if Tampa Bay's, if they're going to wave the white flag, we had an idea that they might be heading in that direction when they traded Aaron Savali already. But, there's a couple of guys the Cardinals would be interested in, Zach Eflin and Pete Fairbanks and those guys. So that, this is kind of good news that, okay, it looks like the Rays are going to be shipping some people. So those are some moves that obviously Cardinal fans are going to keep their eyes peeled for. We're not the only team. It's going to be looking at those guys, obviously, but those are the names that are still remaining in Tampa Bay that Cardinal fans should be interested in. Now, we do know what the Cardinals' needs are, Thomas. We need starting rotation. We need bullpen help and someone, preferably an outfielder, who can hit left-handed pitching. So that's really what we're looking at for the Redbirds. So what we're going to do today is we are going to go through 3 phases or tiers of these needs. And we're going to pick out who we'd like to see them get. So we're going to do a dream target level. We're going to do a realistic trade area. And then we've got the Mo famous low-hanging fruit that we're going to target as well, because you got to keep in mind that, of course, we want these guys at the top of the list, but there's going to be a lot of competition going into this from a lot of other teams who may have more assets than the Cardinals, may have more money than the Cardinals. So it's going to make things very, very difficult for Mo to grab those type of people. So we got to think about all the different layers of players that they might be able to get their hands on. So that's what we're going to go through here in just a minute. We're going to go through pitching and hitting, and we'll have it all for you next on Locked On Cardinals. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, with summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it is time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're even talking about your rival cities, places like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Chicago and Milwaukee. And you can find perfect spots in those places for your particular needs. They've got hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more, all available on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. Booking.com has so many choices across the United States for your summer travel this MLB season. And let's not forget, I know that we're getting closer and closer to the end of summer and kids are going to start going back to school, but you've probably still got a couple of Little League tournaments you still got to get to here, either at the end of July or into August. And those are going to happen in different cities as well. So Booking.com has got you covered there too. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. We love sports. I love them. You love them. And when the sports aren't sporting like we want them to, it's a bit of a bummer right now. Obviously, baseball is a big deal. The Olympics are coming up. You've got preseason football set to begin on August the 1st. So that's not too far away either. But there's not a ton going on at this very, very moment like today. It's pretty much just baseball at the moment. And FanDuel lets me keep the sports going wherever I want. All you got to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood to make any of them. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports on ESPN or on ESPN or Fox Sports? Are you watching those all day and you got to turn things down because of all the screaming? Then make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel, and it's programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. It brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Cardinals back home at Busch Stadium this weekend. You can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Cardinals. Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com is here. All right, you got your PJs on, Thomas. It's time for the dream targets. These are the dream guys that, in a perfect world, the Cardinals will be able to acquire these guys. No problems, no fuss, no muss. They wouldn't have to fight it with any other teams. They would just be like, this is it. This is the golden child that we need. And we're going to let you go first, Thomas. Who is out there right now that has been made available? Obviously, we're not going to go, hey, oh, well, yeah, we want Shohei. We can't have it. He's not available. But of the rumors and stuff that we've heard that have been swirling for the last couple of weeks, who is your dream target for the St. Louis Cardinals?
I'm going to probably butcher his first name, but I'm going to say Tarek Skubal.
Nailed it. You got it.
Perfect. He is ridiculous this year. His whip is 0.92. His ERA is 2.34. If you go to his Baseball Savant page, everything is 79th percentile or higher. He's ridiculous this year. It would take a king's ransom, probably in the likes of Jordan Walker plus Tink Hensel or Quinn Matthews or any one of our top pitching prospects plus Avon Hurt. Like, it would take 3 real big guys to get him. But that's why we call him the dream candidate. He's got 2.5 years of control, so he can lead our staff for the next few years with Sonny Gray. He's dream.
He is dream. And the more that his name kept popping up, the more I'm like, I would trade a Jordan Walker, because I think it's easier to find outfielders than it is to find an elite starting pitcher who's at his age that has still got years of control underneath him. The more I thought about it, the more I'm like, there's not much I wouldn't give up. Like, he's one of those guys. Like, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like, there's nobody, I think, in my system that is untouchable when it comes to acquiring somebody of his levels. Do the Cardinals feel as strongly about it as I do? That's the real question. I mean, when you think about what this team is right now, and they've been fine without Jordan Walker. Like, it's not like Jordan Walker's been the key cog in the middle of this order this whole season, and you're giving up this major piece that has been contributing. He hasn't. And so Teen Kentz is still, maybe a year or two away. He's still a prospect. We don't know. We don't know if he's going to be that great or not. Things happen. I mean, obviously something could happen to Skubal too, but he's doing it at the major league level, and he's dominating. So it's a dream acquisition, but like, what do you think? Would you be willing to give up what it would take to get him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a left-handed starter. So we can't grow starters apparently, but we can get enough serviceable hitters. So send our top prospects out to get a guy who we know can lead a staff for the next 2.5 years.
Yeah, and you haven't heard a whole lot of names circling around him. It's been basically Baltimore has been the big one, and that's the one that, and obviously the prospects that Baltimore can offer rated higher than what the Cardinals have. So if Detroit did decide to move them, getting guys from Baltimore would be better than getting the guys from the Cardinals. That's just the truth. So that's probably where the problem lies, where, Detroit might be like, yeah, those guys are all right, but look who, we're talking about Jackson Holiday over here with the Baltimore Orioles. So that's why it would make it very, very tough to get a deal done, especially with, when you're talking about Jordan Walker being one of the main pieces of it, what he's worth right now is not as high as it was last year. Let's be honest, because he's been down in AAA. So something to consider. All right. My dream guy, I'm going to go over to the bat side of things since you took Skubal. And I'm going to go with Brett Rooker from the Oakland A's. The dude is a monster at the plate. He's hitting 289, 24 home runs, 70 RBIs. The OPS plus is 170, Thomas, 3.4 WAR. And he's cheap with 3 years of control left. He's not making a lot of money. Obviously, those numbers will get bumped up because of the production that he's got going on. He is 29 years old already. Probably can only play in the corner spots in the outfield. I don't know how great he is defensively. Obviously, he could be a fantastic DH, but that kind of puts a lot of pressure on Wilson Contreras only being available, as a catcher instead of using him at DH. I don't know. It just kind of clogs things up at the DH spot because, you want to put Burles in there and you've got other guys that you want to use. But adding somebody like Brent Rooker to this lineup who just mashes, and it doesn't matter what they're throwing, righty, lefty, he kills all of them. But he's a guy that if you plant him in the middle of your lineup right now, I think that makes a huge difference, continuing to keep, Goldie down in the 7 hole. Like, it just kind of pushes people down a slot. You can put Contreras, Rooker, then Arenado or Gorman, however you want to go, righty, lefty, whatever you want to do. And it's just such an impact bat to put in this lineup that, we just saw with the Pirates is it's tough scoring runs all the time. So what are your thoughts on Brent Rooker, and what do you think it would take to get somebody like him?
I love Brent Rooker. It'd be some chess moves. I think there's a world in which Dylan Carlson and Nolan Gorman are traded in other deals to make space for Rooker to come in. As far as getting him, the A's want young pitchers. So once again, probably a Tink Hence. I think we might be able to skate by with some of those mid-range guys we've got. Sam Robersa. I'm not sure how you say his last name either. Mm-hmm. I think if we package enough of those guys together, throw in an outfielder, Chase Davis, maybe it could come together, but they'll probably want one of our top pitching prospects too.
Yeah, and that would be tough because, you're Tink or Quinn Matthews. I'd be open to a Tekoa Roby or somebody like that, but Matthews and Hence, I want somebody really special. That's why Scooble, I'm kind of like, yeah, let's go. But with Rooker, he didn't really blossom till later in his life. I don't know if this is going to sustain after, it's only been 2 years that he's been doing this. And it's odd that he didn't take off till his age 28 season. So
just to get to Oakland. That's all you do, get to Oakland. And
yeah, it's kind of a head scratcher, like what clicked all of a sudden. But if he's able to continue the way he's going for the next couple of years, then for sure we had something you have to think about. All right, so those are our dream scenarios. Eric Scooble, Brent Rooker. Let's drop down a notch and go to more realistic choices. Who do you got lined up for me, buddy?
I have Eric Fetty. I'm going all pitchers, so be prepared for that. I've got Eric Fetty. He has actually been one of the best starters, probably behind Flaherty and Scooble at the market, I think. His ERA sits at 2.98. He has an ERA plus of 138. He's striking out 8 batters per 9 innings, which isn't a massive total, but it's serviceable still. I actually just wrote something. I looked back at Montgomery and Quintana, those trades from 2 years ago, to see what they were performing at half point and then after that. And Fetty is better than both of them, and he could track to be better than them for the rest of the year. I'd really like Eric Fetty. I think he's a little bit of a lower target, but he still has the potential to be as good as the rest of the guys.
Yeah, there's been a lot of smoke there surrounding the Cardinals and the White Sox when it comes to Eric Fetty. And, and he's another guy that first round pick, obviously there was something about him that everybody liked, and it just never worked with the Washington Nationals. He goes over to the KBO and just destroys things over there. Gets the KBO version of the Cy Young and the MVP. He was amazing. And it's almost shocking that he ended up in the White Sox. Now, this sounds like a guy that Mo would have plucked right away. That he would have been all over it. So
and
a little
surprising.
Cheap. Yeah, a little surprising that the White Sox were the team that actually got their hands on him. And now it's going to work out for him because he's more than likely going to get shipped for a decent haul. And perhaps the Cardinals will be in on that. And it's another thing. The risk side of it is that, he's only done it for half of a season at the major league level. We've got history with him in the major leagues where he was not very good, but he appears to be a different guy. The numbers don't lie. It's not like he's doing this against just scrub teams. Like, he's beating very good clubs and pitching very well against them. So he's another name. The more and more they keep talking about him, the more and more I keep going, it makes a lot of sense to bring him in. I'm going to go back to the hitting side of things. And this is a guy, and I've been getting a lot of pushback on this one because he's an old guy. But I'm going to go with Kevin Pillar from the Angels because he's 35. the numbers are not going to jump off the page at you, okay? 278, 7 home runs, 32 RBIs. The OPS plus 124, fantastic. The WAR 0.8, but against lefties, which is what we're concerned about with the Cardinals, all right? As great as it would be to come in and get a guy like Brent Rooker who can you can put him in every single day. We're thinking about a guy that, is going to be able to switch out with guys like Brendan Donovan and Lars Nootbaar and any of the other, Alec Burleson, if need be, needs a day off or something, although I would never set him anymore the way he's going. But but you're talking about the yin and yang there. You got the lefty and the righty mix going. And against left-handers, Kevin Pillar is hitting .371 with 3 home runs, 14 RBIs. He's got a split OPS of 189. He kills left-handers. He can play all 3 outfield positions. He's on an expiring contract. A lot of people didn't think he'd be in the league this year. He was a White Sox at one point. They didn't want him. And so he goes to the Angels and kind of resurrects things for at least 1 year. I don't know how expensive it would be to get a Kevin Pillar. I know you and I have also discussed, him being a piece of a bigger trade for some other guys that the Angels have, because they got some dudes over there that like a Tyler Anderson that, the Cardinals would be interested in. They've got the reliever Estevez they'd be interested in. But he's a guy that I don't know what the draw is around the league for him if you got him just by himself. Like, I don't feel like it wouldn't be super difficult. It's a guy that's been on a lot of teams already, so this is nothing new to him. So it wouldn't be like shocking that he had to go to another team. We know he looks good in red and white and gray because of the Angels colors. So I just feel like Kevin Pillar fits the need that the Cardinals have. And he's not going to complain about not getting everyday playing time. You can pick and choose when you want to put him in. And he'd be an awesome right-handed bat off the bench, something that the Cardinals are very sorely lacking in. It's all lefties. So he's a guy, and I get it why people push back on it. I completely understand. But what are your thoughts on Kevin Pillar and his fit? Have I sold him to you?
He fits perfectly. I mean, he mashes lefties, which is what we need. He can play some center field. His defense still grades out positively in the outfield. I think he'd be a great fit for the team. He wouldn't cost. Find a number 20 through number 30 prospect in our system and send him over, really. That's all it would cost, I think.
Yeah. So you're on board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Thomas is in
Team
my corner. I got one. All right, we're gonna go down to the low-hanging fruit next, and it's the grody part of who we might trade for, but you can find some value in the low-hanging fruit. Sometimes these things work out. Hello, we got J Happ, we had John Lester. That was low-hanging fruit, and it worked out pretty darn well for the Cardinals before. Who says it can't happen again? So we'll have the low-hanging fruit coming up for you next on Locked On Cardinals. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple of clicks at SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the United States. And if you need help with an order, you can get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team and talk to a real person every time. And there's great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors, because being a pro, it's got its perks as well. Trade industry professionals can join their free Trade Master program for free shipping and serious discounts on every single order. Over 100,000 pros, 100,000 already trust the Trade Master program to deliver results. You can apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at SupplyHouse.com/TM. Save money and time when you order online. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the Free Fire TV channels app, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows, which cover every league. You can find Locked On Sports Today now available on the Free Fire TV channels app. Again, Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com joining us here today. We are down to the low-hanging fruit section of trade targets for the Cardinals this year. You said you're sticking with pitching. Who is your low-hanging fruit pitcher that you think the Cardinals should go after?
Left-handed pitcher Trevor Rogers from the Miami Marlins.
All right.
He's got an all-star appearance on his resume. It was way back in 2021, but it is still there. Everybody can look at that.
It's real. You're not making it up.
Yes. I urge people to ignore his record. The Miami Marlins are a terrible team. Pitcher records are not indicative of a pitcher's talent. He's 1-9. His ERA is 4.59, but over his last 9 starts, so from June on, he sits at a 3.49 ERA. He struck out 40 batters in 49 innings in that stretch. He seems to have done something differently over the last 2 months. I don't think he would cost too much. He's got extra years of control, so he's not a free agent until 2027. He's only 26. His injury history is there. He's at 100 innings right now, and his most is 138. But I think that, once again, this is low-hanging fruit. We are not expecting these guys to be aces of a staff.
Yeah. This is the section. If we're talking low-hanging fruit for the rotation, this is your back of the end of the rotation stuff. It's not an upgrade from really anybody that's in. I mean, you're hoping he can pitch at the level or better of Michaelis and Lynn, but there's no guarantees there. But certainly a guy who had a really bright future ahead of him, and then the injuries got him. And it's unfortunate, but this could be a bounce back candidate. And I don't see why that's not somebody that you would talk to the Marlins about, because other people are going to go in trying to yank Jesus Luzardo, who, still hurt right now, but he's been the popular target. Edward Cabrera, obviously, he's got the stuff. He just has to learn to control it and throw strikes. But the Marlins obviously looking to overhaul a lot that's going on. I don't know where Jazz Chisholm Jr. is going to end up, but it seems like he's going to be on the move somewhere. I'm hoping it's not like Milwaukee or something. I'll freak out.
I think the Yankees is what I've heard. So.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with him. But Trevor Rogers, somebody to keep an eye on, put him in your back pocket. I'll go with a hitter once again, and we're going to go back to the AL Central here. We're going to go to Mark Canha from the Detroit Tigers, hitting .234, 7 home runs, 36 RBIs, the OPS plus at 97. Remember, league average is 100. But against lefties, he's much better. He's a .294 hitter, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, split OPS plus of 148. Again, he's an oldie but a goodie, which the Cardinals are not afraid to go for. 35 years old, another expiring contract, so he's not going to cost you a whole lot. Cannot play center field like Kevin Pillar can. He's strictly a corner guy. At least he has been this year for the Tigers. Obviously, he can do some DHing as well for you too. But this is more of a, not so much a guy that you're going to start very often, which you might try to pull off a little more often with Kevin Pillar, but it's definitely a solid bat off the bench that swings it from the right side and can do some damage against left-handers, which again is what something the Cardinals are lacking in. So those are the low-hanging fruit. You've heard the dreams, guys. You've heard the realistic guys. We want to hear from you in the comments section about your thoughts on these guys. Would you do whatever it takes to go get a Skubal or a Brent Rooker? Would you slow it down a little bit? Would you be a little more realistic and go for the Eric Fetties and the Kevin Pillars of the world? I would still rate Fetty higher than Pillar. I think Pillar's a little bit lower than that, but there's not as many right-handed bats available out there. So if I would have to target one of the two and I had to choose one, I would go with Fetty. And then you got your low-hanging fruit guys, Trevor Rogers and Mark Canha. Let us know what you guys think about them. Also, throw in any other guys that you think you would be chasing if you're the Cardinals. Bullpen arms is something. We got a couple of minutes here, Thomas. Bullpen arms are obviously something the Cardinals would like to get their hands on too. Is there any particular ones that you got your eye on that you think the Cardinals should be after?
Andrew Chafin looks good. I think that he could be a part of a package, especially with Canha. I would love Tanner Scott at the back of the bullpen with Helsley, but I think we need a lefty just to pair with JoJo. He seems to be a little bit burnt out already, so find a left-handed reliever out there. Carlos Estevez, he's righty though, I think. So I'm just throwing out names, I guess, at this point. But
that's what I was saying. So that when the AJ Puck trade happened last time, I was like, oh, that would have been a great idea for the Cardinals. What happened? I was like, where are you at, Mo? Wake up.
Yeah. I mean, you could pluck relievers. You could pluck relievers from anywhere, and they might be able to fit. There's so many options, but those 3 guys would be good.
Yesterday's episode, I did a lot of chatter about Jack Flaherty. What are your thoughts on bringing? Because we've talked about, and I saw something this morning that you put out a new article that is talking about doing the trifecta type of deal that included Jack Flaherty, and then you mentioned Chafin, and you mentioned
Canna,
and that one is as well. What realistically do you think the Cardinals, do they even have a shot at bringing Jack Flaherty back? Do you think that's a smart move?
I don't think that the history between Flaherty and the team is what would stop it. I think it'd just be the Tigers wanting a better offer from somewhere else. I'm sure Mo's checked in on him just to see what it might take. I'd love him back. He seems to have tapped into what he had 2019. I think he'd be a great number 1 or number 2 with Sonny Gray.
Yeah, I feel the same way, as where, like, if you just look at who the pitcher, you took the name away, like, forget you didn't even know who the person is. You just look at those numbers. If you can get your hands on that, of course you do that, right?
Absolutely.
He's been brilliant this year. It's been good to see, because I know the name Jack Flaherty in St. Louis, because you're either hot or cold with him. Like, you either liked him and thought he was going to be great and you were bummed out that it didn't work out, or you just didn't like him. He just rubbed you the wrong way. And it just seems like there's no in between, it seems like, for people they're fans of the Cardinals. I was somebody that I wanted Flaherty to do well. I wanted to see him do well. He just could not stay healthy. And you only got to see the 1 year last year where he was finally able to stay on the field more. And he was still trying to get back into doing things normally again. And then unfortunately, it was in that last year of his deal, and he flamed out in Baltimore because he was, there's been articles about this where he was kind of wiped out by that time. This is the first time he'd had a full season under his belt in quite a long time. So it didn't surprise Baltimore or anybody that he didn't have any juice left there at the end of the year. But man, does he look good with Detroit. Cardinals saw that firsthand in that game against him. So again, another move where a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, I don't know about this. Now I'm warming up to it as you see the competition for these arms around the league. It's going to be really, really difficult. So it's hard to be really picky about who you're going to go after. And as long as the relationship between Jack and the front office and stuff is still good, I don't see why that would be somebody you would cross off your list. I think I think at this point you got to kind of look at everybody that's out there. I don't think you can really sit back and go, nah, don't need them, don't want them. I think you got to keep all your options open. So we'll see if things start to open up a little bit now that the Arozarena deal has gone down, and we'll see what the Cardinals see what they can do. We'll see if they can improve this team. There's a lot of static online about people saying they're not going to do anything. They're going to stick with who they got, because there is that side of it too, where I know the phrase is like, it's like making a trade, but getting a Tommy Edman or a Jordan Walker or an Ivan Herrera and bringing them up and bringing them into this lineup could be the pieces they're missing already. That doesn't fill the pitching problems, but it helps with what we're looking for off the bench. And also Riley O'Brien. Is Riley O'Brien going to be somebody that helps out? He's supposed to pitch again today, I believe, is his next scheduled appearance in a game. So these are things that Mo's going to have to figure out, because the clock's ticking. Trade deadline coming up here in just 4 days. All right. Make sure you guys are following Thomas at Thomas Govain on Twitter X. Make sure you guys are hitting him up on redbirdrants.com. Go read his new story about the Tigers trifecta deal, which maybe you'll do an Angels one like we mentioned there. I don't know. I don't know. Just throwing it out there, Thomas. So make sure you guys check out all his work and all the great things they're doing at redbirdrants.com. And as always, buddy, I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you, JD.
And thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube, help our channel, and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.